In this video, I'll tell you all the reasons the second generation Toyota Tundra is one of a kind and honestly share what it's been like to own for 4 years and 70,000 miles. I'm not a truck owner who uses the truck every single day for heavy towing and hauling, but I am more representative of most truck buyers today. I do use it for light hauling and occasional towing, but the majority of the time, it's being used as a comfortable daily driver or as a comfortable vehicle for long road trips, so of course the comfort and drivability are pretty important to me. The higher trim level trucks is like getting all of the features of a nice full-size SUV except with a bed on the back instead of a third row seat. If comfortable pickup trucks didn't exist, myself, as well as many other truck buyers, would be looking for a Tahoe or something similar. The seats are probably the best thing about this truck and are seriously unrivaled when it comes to comfort. Given the seats in the Platinum have a softer foam than the lower trim levels, and they're upholstered in a high-grain genuine leather, I have yet to find a seat in a new truck that provides this amount of support. Ford has some comfortable seats in the F-150, the seats in the Ram are pretty comfortable, the GM trucks are far from the best, and the new Tundra seats are hard and flat when compared to these ones. After driving a new Platinum Tundra, it was a relief to get back into these seats, which are much softer and more supportive. Car makers have been making their seats harder and harder for decades for some reason, so it's getting increasingly difficult to find seats that will be comfortable after many hours on the road. I've driven this truck all day long many times and have never had any discomfort or pressure points from the seats whatsoever. It's honestly a relief sitting in them after a long day or after riding in any other new trucks. It seems like such a simple thing, yet none of these new vehicles make seats that are as comfortable as these ones. The sound from the V8 is probably what I'd miss the most if I were to get a twin-turbo V6. It seems kinda silly to choose sound over the added low-end torque and towing capability that the new engines have, but when you're hearing it every mile and every minute you drive the truck, it's pretty important. V6s can sound okay too, and the piped-in engine noise does help a little, but the V8 just has a luxurious, rich, throaty sound that makes the drive better. When you start it up, it sounds substantial, and when you're just driving down the highway, it has a nice rumble from the exhaust that the V6 can't touch, even though it's quiet and luxurious in its own way. Plus, if you really want to wake it up, you can put on a TRD exhaust or some other system that will let it rumble a little more. Even when you're just accelerating normally, you get to listen to the rich intake and exhaust sound at about 2,500 RPM, which is just something you're never going to get from a turbo V6, even though the turbo does make a cool sound. The quality of these older Toyotas is completely unmatched. The doors are heavy and rugged when you shut them. The shifter feels high quality, the center console is solid, the radio knob doesn't fall off, and the seat trim doesn't crack. It was built to last much longer than most other vehicles. The interior does have quite a bit of plastic, but it's all durable material. There are basically no creaks or rattles in these trucks. The quality can be seen basically wherever you look. Sure, there's some small things that break here and there, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a new truck that will hold up this well over time. These trucks have an incredible reputation for holding their value, and that's been the case since they first hit the market back in 2007. This is the case for other Toyota vehicles too, like the Tacoma and the 4Runner. This generation Tundra was consistently one of the highest resale value vehicles out there. People love to buy them used because they're reliable, they don't cost an arm and a leg to keep running, and they're just well built all around. You can buy one, drive it for 5, 10, or even 15 years, and it'll still run the same way it did when it was new, and the resale value stays surprisingly high. So if you do go to sell it or trade it in, you'll get more than $500 for it. No one wants to spend $50,000 on a truck and have it only be worth $20,000 after a few short years. This one is pretty obvious, but this generation Tundra is one of the most reliable powertrains out there. Toyota made the 5.7 for many years, and it was nearly perfect when they stopped. It did have a few minor problems here and there early on. Some years were prone to a main seal leaking oil, which could be pricey to repair given its location, but it wouldn't affect the engine's performance. Some trucks have blown their head gaskets, but this is probably due to a lack of coolant changes more than anything. Either way, these problems are nothing compared to the transmission issues from Ford, as well as cam phaser problems, and GM lifter failures and transmission problems with the GM V8s, as well as the engine debris problems affecting some of the new Tundras. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to find a reliable truck nowadays, and I'm not looking for a million-mile truck, but something that's been engineered and executed well enough to keep it reliable and trouble-free for the owners dropping 70 grand on them. The 6-speed transmission is also bulletproof with very few failures. This one being a later model doesn't have the external transmission cooler, but the older ones that do have it could tow at capacity all day long with no problems at all. Consumer Reports data shows the 2007 to 2021 Tundra models are much better than average in terms of reliability. New trucks in general just aren't made with the same level of quality as the older trucks. Rather than using materials that hold up for years, they're being built with materials that sometimes look nice but end up breaking or wearing out faster than they should. For example, the interior plastics, while not the fanciest, hold up well and feel solid even when they're 10 or more years old. The body panels are rock solid and heavy, but of course this negatively impacts gas mileage, handling, acceleration, and build costs, which is why we're seeing a shift away from these rugged components. The quality of new trucks simply doesn't match the standards that older models were built to. Trucks like this are known for their durability and ruggedness, made from materials that could withstand decades of use in tough environments without wearing out and becoming useless. These older models were engineered to last, using heavy-duty metal and high-quality materials throughout the vehicle. Nowadays, manufacturers are often more focused on cutting cost, fuel economy, and putting in more gadgets. Don't get me wrong, many of the features are nice, and who doesn't want a better handling truck with better gas mileage and better acceleration, but it comes at a cost. This truck doesn't have the most luxurious materials, but those materials last a long time. The plastics in a 10 or even 20-year-old truck's interior are likely to still feel solid with minimal signs of cracking, fading, or general wear. These materials were built to withstand the daily rigors of work and play, whereas today's trucks often come with glossy, lightweight plastics that look good but tend to scratch, fade, or break much sooner. It's the same story with the body panels. Classic trucks had thick, heavy steel panels that gave them a solid, unbreakable feel, almost like driving a tank. In some respects, they are building trucks that cater to what many buyers want today, vehicles that handle more like a car and come packed with luxury features. Heated and ventilated rear seats, heads-up displays, and ambient lighting, just to name a few. Less emphasis on building a vehicle that will last a lifetime, and more emphasis on the wow factor. The interiors, among the rest of the parts, now use materials that are better suited in a family vehicle or daily commuter than in a rugged work truck. These older trucks might not have the advanced technology or plush interiors, but they were built with a simple, almost unbreakable toughness that many people still admire today. They were dependable, long-lasting, and built to handle whatever was thrown at them. For those who appreciate that kind of durability, there's a sense of nostalgia and frustration when looking at modern trucks. Over the years I've owned this truck, it's been nearly flawless with almost no issues worth mentioning. When I first got it, there were a few minor things to address. The brakes were a bit warped from sitting for an extended period before the purchase, and on really cold days, the driver's door panel will rattle a little. Additionally, the trailer electrical connection occasionally acts up, but that's more of an intermittent inconvenience rather than a real problem. These are all small, manageable quirks that don't compare to the kinds of issues you might expect in other vehicles. For 4 years now, it's been a reliable, smooth experience. I haven't needed any unexpected trips to the dealership or had to deal with any major repairs, which in my opinion just goes to show you how well built these trucks are. It's refreshing to own a vehicle that just works day in and day out with no surprise expenses or breakdowns, especially when other truck owners are angry and frustrated with thousands of dollars in unexpected repairs. I am extremely diligent when it comes to preventative maintenance, basically having all the intervals in the service manual. The oil gets changed every 5,000 miles, and the transfer case and differential fluids get changed routinely, as well as the transmission fluid. I've had the chance to drive new trucks equipped with the air suspension from Ram, Toyota, and GM, and to be honest, the ride quality isn't noticeably better than what you get with the traditional leaf spring suspension. You'd expect a big leap in comfort and smoothness with the air suspension compared to this older leaf spring design, but in practice, I can't say I notice much of a difference, if any difference at all. At the end of the day, they all ride like typical half-ton trucks, which is actually pretty comparable to the ride you get in large SUVs like the Sequoia, Tahoe, and other body-on-frame vehicles, albeit a tiny bit more harsh. Honestly, I thought this Tundra would ride noticeably rougher due to the older, more durable leaf spring suspension setup, but in my experience, it's really not bad at all. According to Consumer Reports, owner satisfaction for the Toyota Tundra is higher than that of other trucks, with around 75% of Tundra owners stating that they would definitely buy the truck again. This high satisfaction rate takes into account factors like price, performance, reliability, comfort, and overall enjoyment. A big part of this positive response likely comes from the Tundra meeting owners' expectations, few breakdowns, and solid build quality. The new trucks have some nice features to offer, there's no doubt about that. They have 360 cameras, more torque, and they get significantly better gas mileage. They're also easy to drive, but they also have their downsides. The interiors don't hold up as well, and they have many more electronics that are known to fail. So, is it worth the trade-off? Maybe, but I know I would definitely miss the V8 if nothing else. This is just such a well-built truck, it's hard to replace it with something that has a record of more problems.